Hello, hello, NFA Money Mamas. It's time for another Biz Breakdown session for this episode of the Women Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm psyched you're here because today I have probably one of my favorite women on the planet. She is such a rock star and she really has an incredible business. So she's come on to chat with us about how awesome her business is and things that we can brainstorm to help her scale faster. So welcome Jen Spainhour to today's Biz Breakdown session.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I love getting just that on the spot feedback from you. You always give me great things to think about. So thank you for having me for the Biz Breakdown today.
Yeah, woohoo. This is fun. So for those of you who don't know yet, if it's your first time here for a Biz Breakdown session, this is something that I invite women entrepreneurs just like Jen, just like you to come on, hang out with me, promote your business, and also get some feedback on different areas that you can help to scale faster. So it could be website stuff, it could be mindset stuff, it could be marketing, it could be, asking really specific questions about, hey, is my strategy working to bring in new people? Do I need to refine my niche? Different questions like that. And if you go back and listen to previous episodes of Biz Breakdown sessions, you'll get to hear the process and see if it sounds aligned for you. If it is something that you want to come on and do, go ahead and go to thewomenontrepreneurpodcast.com, thewomenontrepreneurpodcast.com, and you'll see at the top of the page, there's a button that says Biz Breakdown Session or Get Your Biz Breakdown Session. Just click on that and see if it's a good fit for you. I'd love to have you on. All right. So I always like to start with this question. So for you, Jen, if I could give you a magic wand and let's say, I like to say 6 months to a year from now, I could give you a magic wand and you could go like, hey, this is where I want my business to be in that amount of time. What would you say are your big manifestations in that amount of time? Where do you want your business to be?
Yeah, for one, I feel like I want to step into my potential. Okay. I know I have a lot of potential and I have a lot of intentions and I'm not quite living that yet. And so I want to get to a place of a 6-figure business and one that is bringing in predictable monthly income without me feeling totally overwhelmed.
I love these words. Okay. I'm so curious, everyone here, if this is something that resonates for you, like, oh, I want that too. Let us know. You can, if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment there or DM me by taking a screenshot of the podcast, putting it at NFA Money is where this shows up. So at NFA Money, and just share it with your community and say like, oh my God, this resonates. DM me. I'd love to hear from you. And Jen, I think that this is something that almost everyone I work with talks about, right? They go like, I want predictable income that's stable and continuously growing, and especially doing things I love. When you say intentions, will you share a little bit what those are? Like you said, you have a lot of intentions, but you're not fulfilling your potential. So what are some of those intentions?
I mean, one that you've heard me talk about in the past is to start my own podcast. I have had this desire for a very long time, starting back from the very first podcast I ever listened to, which was Entrepreneurs on Fire. And I actually listened to that this morning and they were talking with the founder of Podmatch, which you told me about.
Yeah.
So I want to have my podcast up and running. I want to be interviewed on podcasts. I want to be speaking on stages. And I want to be working with high-level women who want to find more fulfillment, more success, more challenge in their career.
These are good. And that's something I want to say that's awesome is that you're so clear about what those are. Mm-hmm. What would you say is the number one thing holding you back? Because, especially when I hear someone say, I've been wanting to do this for a long time and yet they haven't yet. What's holding you back?
Yeah, I think that, there's always mindset, I think that comes into play. But I think for me, it's more of a feeling of I've got like multiple tentacles that all need to be operating at once. And I just get spread too thin.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to end up getting my energy get sucked into the thing that's right in front of me, which, for example, I am taking a group of women out on a retreat this Friday out to Red Mountain Resort in Utah. And so all of my energy in the last couple of weeks has been focused on that versus, which is, I need the energy to be there. And I need to also be continuing to build for the momentum beyond that retreat. So I tend to get tunnel focused on what's right in front of me. And then it's like, oh, yeah, the podcast is not the priority at this moment. Speaking, putting my, all those things, it just feels like too much to do for one person. And I haven't personally had a ton of success with hiring a virtual assistant. One definitely helped me more than the other, but it's like, I have to be clear what I want them to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to get what I need out of them. So yeah, sometimes I find myself just spinning in all the ideas.
Yeah. Okay. Did you get a chance yet to listen to the Zone of Manifestation Business Scaling Roadmap? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I heard in your last interview, you mentioned it and I watched you talk about it, but just at one time, it's not like fully ingrained in my mind yet.
Okay, so everyone here who's listening, if you haven't listened to it yet, go to episode 3, because basically this is where, when you come on a biz breakdown session, I often go like, okay, let's see where you are on that roadmap, because it helps you understand and detect the symptoms that you're experiencing. And so it's really interesting. What I see is most people are either in zone 1 or zone 2. So zone 1 is the manic imposter zone. This is usually when you're just starting a business or you're coming up with new ideas for a business. You have this sense of elation and excitement and you're like, oh my God, I love everything about it. And yet I feel like an imposter and I'm not sure what to do. Most people, 80% of the people that I work with and who are probably listening to this, are in zone number 2, which is the over deliver and undercharge zone. Mm-hmm. And what that looks like is a lot of what you're talking about, where it's like you have too many products and programs. Mm-hmm. So you get scattered in your thinking and you're over delivering and really overworking. And then you're not making the ROI, because even if you're not, let's say you're not necessarily undercharging for the things you're offering, it's that you have so many things out there that it's ineffective in the marketing approach, because it's like, do I market to this or do I market to that? And then no one really knows exactly what you're promoting. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And it's not always just the multiple products I could be offering. It's the multiple, it's like the podcast, starting up the podcast, doing, it's some of those things behind the scenes, the marketing activities that I'd like to be doing better.
Yeah.
But I think, it's interesting, Amanda, because I feel like when I first started this business full time, it was right when we were all in the beginning of the pandemic. And I feel like I had I shouldn't say none. I had little imposter syndrome, because I was just like embracing my authentic self. I was putting myself out there. I was just planting seeds and, it was nothing but upside, right?
Yeah.
I feel like, there are these waves that we go through in the business, and I had so much momentum, and then it became more executing on some of the things I had created. And it's like keeping that momentum and continuing to build. The beginning was so exciting and I was just having so much fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and, I think for you, it's interesting because, for those of you listening instead of watching, Jen's business is, and I'm going to put it up on the screen so you all can see it, and I'll say it. So for the podcast listeners, her business is called Position for Success. So if you go to www.positionforsuccess and check out her website, it's pretty freaking awesome. That we're going to share it on the screen here. Like you can see that she is good at marketing, clear on who she's targeting. So she says empowering professionals and organizations to achieve greater success and fulfillment. Okay. So, she's targeting women she's targeting professionals, and the goal is for them to achieve greater success and fulfillment. Now, as we scroll through, we see she has an 8-week online program, and then she works with individuals and organizations. She gives some really awesome content about herself. She's a Fortune 500 corporate executive turned certified professional career empowerment coach. So Jen's coming into this from I would say, a very empowered place. You come from a corporate background where that imposter syndrome in some ways is going to be reduced when you start a business. And then, like you're saying, that ebb and flow happens when this happens. I see a lot of times, like, women will come in from business world or potentially making a pretty high income, and then they start a business, and all of those imposter syndrome stuff start to get triggered over time, because they're like, oh God, I got to come up with my own income, and I got to come up with promoting myself. And it's a very different thing than getting a paycheck every month. So, everyone definitely check out her website. So positionforsuccess.com. She's been on the news. She does speaking retreats, awesome stuff. And so one thing I want to question for you, Jen, because you have so many cool programs, and you're, to me, like a very articulate speaker and powerful. And I know that you're incredibly good at creating community. Like, you have created really good communities. So with, one thing you said is, like, with the magic wand, you'd go like, oh, a podcast, a six-figure business with predictable monthly income. What would you say in that overarching theme, when you look back at your business development through the years, what is your zone of genius? Like, if you articulated it into one sentence, what would you say is your zone of genius?
I think my zone of genius is bringing people together, connecting people, and helping people see how amazing they are and what their possibilities are. Okay, so bringing people together. And when you say people, is it women in particular? Women. It's more women, yeah. And I mean, that's really like my passion, but I think that I also can undervalue or underestimate my years of corporate experience. That's just kind of comes through in how I deliver myself as a coach and a business owner. Because the other part of my zone of genius is helping. I think part of why I help people see the possibilities is because I come from a background of innovation consulting, and I've got that like expanding growth mindset. And sometimes I feel like I can do that better for other people than myself even.
Yeah, which is common, right? Because we can see other people's blind spots more easily than we can see our own, which is why it's so important to have a coach. We don't always see where our stuck points are. When you say that zone of genius, connecting and bringing people together, what is the, I would say, like, what is the calling, the inspiration to do a podcast? Because, and I'll say this, and everyone here pay attention to this, we will never take action on something that isn't connected to our highest values. So if you have a perception that the podcast will fulfill your ability to connect and bring people together, you'll create it. If you don't see that connection, you're going to be hesitating, procrastinating, and not taking action. So in my mind, I think there's a missing link in your mind there that needs to be linked, because once you start to see, like, oh, podcast is an amazing way to build community, then you'll be in action. You'll figure it out.
The other part of my mission, given my own life experience, is to help people find and live into what they were born to do. And the podcast, in my mind, would give me it's a tool to help people see the possibilities. Because as I would interview clients of mine who've gone through my What's Next program, who've discovered what they really want to do in life that's more aligned with a calling or what they feel they were meant to do, and now they're doing it, I want to bring those stories to the table for the women who were like I was when I was in corporate, going, this isn't it, and I don't know what to do about it or what it is. So I like, in my heart, I know it would be a great thing to do. I think it's just a matter of what's on the front burner and what's on the back burner.
Well, I think one of the symptoms of being an over-deliver and undercharge zone is having too many things on the plate. And you're right. What will happen is you start to get hyper-focused on one thing. Then once that's gone through, then you go, oh, now I got to focus on this, and now I got to focus on this. And it's really challenging to build momentum and scale when that's happening. For me, when I started my business, I got to six figures because I had one program offering. That was it. Like, I had one option. I had my podcast, which was a way to, I think of podcast as building community and building your expert platform and getting people to know, like, and trust you over time, because especially with podcasting is so cool. They can binge listen and then they are like, oh my God, I know you. When they reach out to work with you, they're like, I already feel like I know you, which is a huge benefit of having a podcast. So in some ways, I think about podcast as a different aspect of your business than your program, right? It's more of your marketing aspect of your business than the program. So it draws people into your community and what you're offering. So, in my mind, in terms of the offerings that you have, do you have a good system set up to bring people into the What's Next program, and then your retreat is like an offshoot of that? Or, tell me a little bit there, because to me, what I see going on is just a scattered approach, which is going to be hard to build momentum and scale to 6 figures.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things I wrote down before talking to you in my NFA notebook that I have is that, I want my programs, where did I write this? I just want my offers to work together so that it takes clients through a journey.
Yes.
It's longer client retention. It's more value for them. And then I think naturally out of that, if they're working with you longer, and I work with a lot of women, it will create a community.
Yeah.
So right now, I think where I have probably struggled a little bit is my desire to really help people with their careers, because that's what I struggled with. And it's such an important part of our lives that, if you're doing something that you feel is what you are meant to do or what you're naturally good at, that's going to make your whole life easier and happier and better when you're, anyway. So there's that. And then some of the things I do, like the retreat and the Up Level Club, they're more like general mindset, positive mindset, finding fulfillment, having direction on an intention in life. So I think I need to really consider how to bring those together, because it's like two different things, and it's not going. So right now my retreat is completely a separate entity.
Okay. Yep.
And the What's Next the What's Next program is a separate entity. And my Up Level Club, which is really my community building tactic, is also separate. Now, I will say that a lot of the people who, and the people who've come through my What's Next group coaching program, many times they've come from the Up Level Club. But it's not an intentional tied together with a strategic thread kind of portfolio.
Yeah. I love the term you use there. It's the client journey, right? And really what you're highlighting that's so important for everyone watching to know is, like, if you're marketing to 3 different communities, it's making your efforts way less effective, and you're going to be burnt out and overwhelmed, because you can't gain momentum when you're like, oh, over here I'm talking to this group, and over here I'm talking to this group, and over here I'm talking to this group, because you can't build enough of a community around those 3 things. Let's say this, you could over time, but it's going to take a long time and more money and time and energy and effort than you probably want to put in. One of the things you said was predictable monthly income, breaking through to 6 figures without killing yourself. Right. Yes. And so this is one of the biggest things I see happening. Exactly. Like you're depicting it so well. And I know that a lot of people listening resonate, because they're like, oh my God, this is exactly what I'm struggling with. And I have done it in the past too, where you are afraid to focus on one group because you think you're going to lose out on helping people. And a lot of it comes from that beautiful heart where you're like, but I want to help everyone, and I have gifts to bring to everyone. Right.
And some of the women who've been so loyal to my Up Level Club, they're not in a place to need the What's Next that's like not why we're there. So then I think, well, what about if I really make it all about that, then what happens to so-and-so and so-and-so?
Yeah. Yeah. So some of this, would you say you have a habit of, this might sound harsh, but it would be like in the realm of people pleasing, giving too much?
Yeah. I mean, I get pleasure out of pleasing others, but yes, definitely.
Yeah. So there's a money block there, right? Where we go, oh God, I'm stuck in thinking that I need to help everybody. And that I can't, if I drop this certain aspect of my business, I'm not going to be able to help as many people, and those people might suffer, and I feel bad and I feel guilty.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And I think, it's I think that's probably true.
So what would it feel like for you if you imagined in a year from now having a really awesome community who was all filled with your 5-star rock star avatar? Like, who would that be? Describe that woman for me. Like, who is your 5-star client who you just love to serve?
Yeah, and I've been thinking about this a lot, obviously. I think that where I would love to start, my ideal client is, I start with the woman who is currently struggling with, she's maybe currently working.
Okay.
She's no longer, there's a couple of things that seem to come up for my clients. They're either just not fulfilled anymore.
Okay.
They don't feel valued anymore. Sometimes it's because as we get older, like all the younger people are getting all the attention, or they're not challenged anymore.
Okay. So they've like lost the spark.
They've lost their spark, but they are comfortable. They don't know what else they would even consider doing. So they just stay, and the years fly by so quickly. And then it's like, well, what, I changed now. So I would love to start with someone who's at that point. I want to start with the woman when she's currently possibly in her job, but not feeling fulfilled or not feeling challenged or valued. I want to help her actually believe that there are other possibilities, help her find those opportunities and map out a career roadmap. And then once she gets into that new job, I want to be there to be helping her succeed within the job. So it's kind of like that full, where am I meant to go and how am I going to get there?
Yeah.
And then help me get there. And now that I'm here, how do I succeed in this brand new job that may be a brand new industry?
Got it. Okay. Awesome. So clarity of vision there is really important. One thing I want to ask you is, what's the cost to you if you don't niche down to that target audience? What's the cost to you and the people and the women that you are desiring to serve?
Probably just, well, it's my time, but it's also just lengthening how long it takes me to get where I need the business to be. And at some point I wouldn't be able to sustain it.
Yeah. So I want everyone here to think about this. When you have so many irons in the fire, it burns you out. Not only does it drain your income, it drains your energy. And it also feels really frustrating because you're not getting the validation of getting big successes and having more and more people be attracted to you easily. So on that zone of manifestation business scaling roadmap, when you get to zone 4, that's when people are just flowing to you. And the reason that happens, it's because they get that you're the right person to flow to based on you being so clear in your niche, that they're like, Jen is my go-to person for career empowerment. Right. And it's hard to do that when they see like, oh, she's got this and this and this, but none of it's totally related to career empowerment. So you're not in their mind yet the go-to person for that.
Yeah. And the question I have for you. So right now I have the What's Next program, which is very clearly aligned with the first stage of that journey.
Yep.
And then several of my one-on-one clients right now are in their first 90 days of a new promotion or a new job. And I'm kind of like at the back end. So I am working with them there. They may not have gone through my whole journey. They may have come in at the end there. Are those two things too disparate from each other? So one is helping you find the thing you're meant to do. And the other is, once you get in there, I'm like your back pocket coach.
I love that you have, to me, what you're doing is bringing a solution across the client journey at different stages, but it's the same target audience. I think that's the biggest niching down thing that most people miss, is you've got to be targeting the same audience. So like, for example, let's say for me, I was targeting career women and entrepreneurial women. This podcast would be very confusing because those are very different conversations, right? Like it would be mindset related, empowerment related, because that's definitely what I do to help individuals, but I'm focused on entrepreneurs. It's a very different mindset than a career mindset. Right. And so for you, I think that the key for you is to get really clear on your target person. And then it's totally okay to create different programs for them across the client journey. In fact, it's a very smart move.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, I'd say before you break through to the 6-figure mark, you want to really be hyper promoting one program. You'll have those other programs available, but it's not what you're targeting and it's not what you're mainly talking about in the world. So let's say you create a podcast that has to do with up-leveling for career women. Yeah, that's very clear. Like, and definitely hang out with me more about in terms of name. And I know this because of experience.
Yeah, I know you've been through a couple. Yeah, I know.
Third rebrand, I'm like, oh,
I thought about that because I heard you talking about that in one of your other podcasts, and I was remembering the podcast name I was considering, and it's cute, but it's not clear.
Yeah, totally. And I think, and I didn't think about this either. I always thought, well, you build a tribe around a cool, kitschy name, but the truth is they can't find you and you make it really hard on yourself. And I see it over and over again. Like I can scroll through names of podcasts and I'm like, oh, you must have the money block. Money is hard to make because you're making it hard on yourself. And I did the same thing, and so, getting really clear on your avatar, I'd say is like key number one, because it helps you niche down and it helps you get into zone 3, which is where you get to value yourself more because people see you as an expert in that way. And then what you're talking about is awesome. So it's like you have a stage for them to come in the door easily. You have the What's Next program, which is your main target. Like that's what goes out in your marketing, your content, your podcast, like everything you create until you get that to 6 figures. Now, let's say you have women come in and be like, oh my God, you're a career empowerment coach. I want to work with you. I already have the career I love, but I want to take it to the next level. Then you have that individualized consult and go, oh, I have a great one-on-one system for that. Right. It's just not what you're marketing to, right? So it's awesome to have different options available across the client journey, just niche down to one type of avatar. Right. And I want to say this to everyone because I think it's a really powerful thought around loss and letting go to niche down. I like to share with people, loss is the gain of that which is more aligned. So loss is the gain of that which is more aligned. So when we cut things off, it's a decision. And what it does is opens the door for more clarity and faster manifestation time. So when we cut off, let's say, and I've done this in my business where, I used to work with a lot of men and a lot of women and a lot of different types of entrepreneurs. And I've just niched down. And the more I niche down, the bigger my audience is growing more quickly because they're like, oh, Amanda works with women entrepreneurs. They're raising their hand and they're reaching out to me because it's so clear. And it took me a long time to get there because same thing. I was afraid. It was like, God, but I love helping all these people. And, all these different types of people are coming to me. But now I'm getting like today, I got a phone call this morning, and someone inviting me to speak on stage because they're like, there are not enough women entrepreneurs talking about money making and we want you at our event. That would not have happened if I hadn't niched down. Right. So we want to get you really clear on niching down. And I would say, just knowing your business pretty well and looking at what you have to offer on your website, hyper focusing on this 8-week What's Next program, because I know you rock this out and I know you get results for people. And it's a great in the door with you. And then build a podcast around this program. Like in your mind, what's the podcast conversation around this program? And how can I build community around it, break through to the 6-figure mark, and then see what's next, for you. I love that it's the What's Next program. Then you get different, it's like a different vantage point. Once you break through 6 figures, then you can start looking at different delegation strategies, adding different programs and things like that.
And it's just something really relevant right now. My very first coaching client, she actually lives out your way. I won't say her name out loud, but one of my favorite clients. And she started off with getting hired into a new promotion and wanting some support to make sure she could, level up to that. Then she went through my What's Next program because she knew that wasn't really her ultimate long-term goal. And she finished that program probably a year or more ago. And she just reached out to me and told me she's gone and gotten a certification based on what came out of the What's Next program. And she's leaving this job and moving to the one that she really wants. So now I have the opportunity to serve her again in a different capacity, but it's the same person who's kind of, so she's like when I think of my ideal client.
Brilliant. Yes. That's awesome. So what you want to do is reverse engineer all your programs based on that in mind, and podcasts. You're thinking when you're talking about, you're like going, what's the name of the podcast? What are the episode titles? You're thinking about how you're teaching that person to walk through that client journey, because that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
And so, I thought of another thing when you were talking. It was so awesome. Like, those are the moments where you just, to me, and I know you're like such a big hearted, I love your heart. Like when you get those people and they email you and they share with you and you're like, yes, this is what I'm doing in the world. So don't be afraid that when you start to niche down and you let go of some of the people that are no longer in that community for the future growth, like they'll come to you in a different way. Right. I promise. Like, that's where I think we get scared, where we go like, I'm going to lose people. I'm going to lose the connection. Like, it doesn't need to be that way. It's just now that you're refining so that you are the most potent and powerful with the money, time, and energy that you're putting into your business. And it causes everything to be able to grow a lot more quickly. And so, in that podcast thinking, I'd be thinking like, ooh, okay, how can I think of my podcast as a fun, easy way to connect with the right audience? It creates my content on a regular basis. And I want you to go simple at first. Like, you're new to podcasting, don't overthink it. I read, oh my gosh, actually, I don't think I can share it easily on here right now, but these stats were insanely astounding to me. I'm not sure if I can find it, but it was like podcasting stats about like 10% of podcasters there's like 4 million podcasts, but only 10% have posted in the last 10 days. And like the inconsistency with it, like a lot of people think that the market's saturated with podcasting. Not true. If you're consistent and you're dedicated and you keep going, you can build to a top 5% podcast over time. Like, it is actually absolutely doable. And then I see you, because you love to speak and you're so good at it, and you can have interviews if you choose. You can do like sessions like this. You can choose how to create it however you want. Like, you get to have that heart-centered connection. You get to have your speaking platform, and then you'll start getting invited into, on your website, I see the individual and the corporate, you'll start getting invited to do keynotes for women who are in their career process and they're looking to up level. So all these doors of opportunity will open to you as you niche down.
Yeah. And I wonder if some of your listeners would relate to this, especially those like me who are ambitious and have lots of ideas.
Yes.
The vision that I see for myself is all the things, like in the bigger long term, like a book, all these things.
Yeah.
And I think the discipline that I've struggled with is starting small.
Yes.
And to like start it all and push it all up the hill.
I love it. Yes. Thank you for saying that. That's so important. So that's what we're going to end with. What's the action step for the next, let's say for the end of this year? So right now we're recording this. It's 2022. We're moving into quarter 4. What is in quarter 4 going to be the action steps you take based on what we talked about today to start to niche down and narrow in and build momentum in a specific direction?
Yeah, I think it is clearly laying out for myself, but also for my website and for everywhere, the customer journey. And how I think what you said makes so much sense, is that the focus of the communication becomes on the entry point. And that was one of the things I struggled with, is like, I'm promoting too many things.
Yeah.
So to focus on the What's Next program. And as I mentioned, I'm going to on my retreat, and after the retreat ends, I'm staying a couple days for myself to have a business retreat. And I'm kind of a symbolic type person. As a matter of fact, part of why I go to Red Mountain is bring people there, is because it's my happy place. I think I'm going to bring this microphone with me and just record my first podcast. I've worked with you on it in the past. I've drafted it, I've thought about it a lot. I think it would be really cool for my very first podcast to be recorded at Red Mountain Resort.
I love that idea. Yes. Oh yeah. I can't wait to see what's to come from that. Especially because you're going to leave that event so inspired.
Yeah.
You know, I know how much you love that community connection, and you attract such an amazing group of women. So you're going to be on fire.
Yeah.
And that's the best place to start.
And I'm
So
going to be in the midst of such an inspirational backdrop. And
totally. Yeah. Okay. Your action step then is to send that episode to me. Will you do that?
Yes.
Awesome. Good. Okay.
I'm excited.
I love that you are here. Thank you so much. And, for all the people listening, share in some way what you got out of today. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can share in the comments. Or if you're listening to the podcast, just take a screenshot. And I like to remind people how to do this, like how to promote people you're listening to. A lot of money, time, and energy goes into creating a podcast. And we do it because we love bringing value to the table. And it helps us when you share it with other people. So if you got something out of today, just take a screenshot of the podcast on your phone and then post it to your favorite social media. I'm on Instagram the most. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. And then just tag me in it at NFA Money. And then start a conversation with me. I love to hang out with my people. Just like Jen, I love community. And that's one of my big quests. It's one of the reasons I started the Women Entrepreneur podcast is because I went I want to start a community of badass women entrepreneurs who are heart-centered, driven to have their business be a really big core center of their life where they get to create impact and income and be financial powerhouses and up-level the world. So that's why I do what I do. And it helps me when you blast it out and share it with people in your community and connect with me. So
awesome.
Thank you, Jen. And again, for everyone to go check out Jen, she's positionforsuccess.com. Positionforsuccess.com. She has an incredible 8-week program. I know she's in the middle of revamping on her website.
Right. It's actually a 90-day program now because I realized there's more in-depth work to be done.
Okay, perfect.
It's actually, I'm kicking it off again in September, but it'll be coming back again in January. And if I could also just offer people to find me on Instagram at Jen _ position for success.
Awesome. Okay. So Jen _ and then position for success, all one word.
Yes.
Okay. Jen _ position for success. So connect with Jen, share how you got impact today. She is, really, it makes my eyes fill up with tears. She's one of my favorite women on the planet. I often think of you, Jen, as my client avatar. I just love your energy. I love what you're doing in the world. You make me smile every day. So thank you for being here. Yes. And thank you everyone else. And until next time, NFA Money Making High Five.